Oh my, what a silly car. What a silly car. In this video, I get deafened by the noisiest crows in the world while I put an HSV Maloo through its paces. It's basically a Holden Commodore pickup with far too much performance. Right, so we better get the naming out of the way first of all. This is an HSV, and that is the HSV logo, very racy, notice the racing helmet and the hint of the Holden logo beneath. This is the sports arm of Holden. Huge wheels, huge brake discs, and effectively the AMG to Holden, you know, the M to BMW, or maybe even Alpina. No, probably not Alpina, more the M to the BMW. So yeah, this is hot. But of course, it's a pickup truck because I'm in Australia, or Ute, as it would rather be known, I'm sure. It's HSV Maloo. So we've got Maloo badges. We've got a 307 badge on the back. So that's not nicking something from Peugeot. It's 307 kilowatts, and we've got R8 as well, which is presumably because the engine is a V8. They just basically nick badges from European cars, it seems. But yeah, it's all of the purple. It's an amazing colour. I wish the sun would come out because it would really pop in the sun. But it is a utility vehicle. If I open the lid at the back, look, you see, practical. It is actually a work truck. Does get used by a builder as is day wagon. So there we are in practical mode. Presumably with a few bolts you can easily remove the cover should you feel the need to get larger items in. It's nice to see a working one, because really these are very much referred to as a sort of a coupe utility. So even Holden admitted that they weren't really designed with practicality in mind. The suspension at the back, shut up, just isn't really up to the vast weight of most utility vehicles. The Ford Falcon of this era still had a beam rear axle with leaf springs in Ute form. So if you want a proper working Ute, you'd go for the Ford. Like I say, this is more a coupe utility. You'll notice how sleek the styling is. And you may think, well, what's the point of a big beefy coupe utility like this? I mean, you can't carry people in it because there are no rear seats, but then that's true of most coupes. They may have rear seats, but they're not really designed for anyone to sit on. It's no worse than that. So I have no problem with the concept of this type of vehicle. This is based on the VE generation of Commodore, and the VE was interesting because it was the first truly independent Holden rear-wheel drive platform, because previous generations were kind of loosely based on the Vauxhall Omega, and you can still see styling cues in the back of a VY. The VZ hid those Omega origins a little more, and then the VE came in, and I think a couple of years before this example was built. And like I say, because there was no more Omega, no more rear-wheel drive platform in Europe, it had to be a kind of a ground-up fresh design. I say that the platform was intended to be shared with American cars, known as the Zeta platform. General Motors quite wisely thought that, hey, we can use this platform to go under a smaller range of rear-wheel drive cars for America. In the end, the only car that shared this platform was the Chevrolet Camaro. I think the 6th generation, might have been the 5th generation, used the same platform, and that was it. The economy crashed and General Motors decided not to go through with any more of these schemes. But yeah, obviously very purposeful styling. We've got huge bright red brake calipers. We've got these twin bubble scoops on the hardtop that serve absolutely no purpose at all other than to look sporty. And I don't know if the normal Utes had this sweeping rear section, these buttresses either. But yeah, certainly a very intriguing car to look at. So sadly, the VE and the facelifted VF, I think that the VF was the last Holden Commodore of a type we could actually call a Commodore. The final Holden Commodore being a rebadged insignia that just basically spat all over the Commodore's fine name. But enough of that. Let's have a look inside, where it still gets pretty theatrical. I mean, I've been driving around in a VU ute, which is a fair few years earlier, and that's the base model. Whereas in this, look, we've got these beautiful sculpted seats. We've got lumbar adjustment. We've got electric height adjustment, and you can tilt the seat as well. If I jump aboard, we've got some very nice HSV mats. Got a surprisingly large steering wheel. It's a fair bit of wear on it, but that's because this example has done 224,000 kilometers. Not exactly in the first flush of youth. Got a very nice dashboard cover with a flap for the airbag on the passenger side. Bank of extra gauges because race car. And we've got this thing in the middle that does stuff, your climate control, Blaupunkt, stereo, sat nav, etc. Gearbox, I don't know anything about the gearbox. I would imagine it's a General Motors one. I'm thinking probably a 4-speed, but seeing as we've got some sort of Tiptronic control, we'll be able to find out. Electric windows, little cubbies. It's yeah, even a bit of storage space behind the seats. So it's all the good times. And the owner has fitted extra speakers in the back. It only had 3 speakers from standard. I shall find the key, which I've managed to hide in my pocket, and we can start the theatrics. That's probably complaining because the door's open. System check. System check complete. All is good. And now we've got this device here that gives us various theatrics as well. We better do a hazard light check. Yeah, that sounds quite indicatory. And wipers. Oh, look at that on the blade washers. That's all good. This little triangle up here, less good. So we've got a very big driver's wiper blade and a tiny little passenger one, and there's just a hint of messy triangle there, but look, that's nice and close to the edge. We've got buttons on the steering wheel as well, and because race car, a bit extra space down there. Is that the handbrake? That is the handbrake. Ah, there we go. I quite like that. That trick was also used on the Saab 9.3, I believe. But let's have a look at the engine. Turn the ignition back off a minute, and because you probably want to look at that, and I'm not going to start it until you've looked at it. So no. So under the bonnet of a UK pickup, you'd probably expect a 2-litre turbo diesel engine maybe, but this is Australia. So what we've got here is a 6-litre V8, the LS2 engine. There we go. We've got the bore and stroke dimensions, very important. We've even got a graph of the power output. So there we go, 307 kilowatts of power, about 412 brake horse, I think, at 6,000 RPM, 550 newton meters of torque at just 4,400. Look at that torque curve. Even at 1,000 revs, it's producing over 400 newton meters of torque. That's insanity. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, here we go. It's November 2007 build. The color is Morpheus, and yeah, so I wouldn't like to try and work on it necessarily, but there are the spark plugs tucked nice and close to the exhaust headers, and yeah, there's probably more engine hidden under there. Still overhead valve, I believe, on these LS engines. They kind of prove that you don't necessarily need your fancy camshafts and everything. So yeah, purposeful and powerful. Now, one thing you'll notice is those humps do rather compromise the rear view. Yeah, you can't really see a fat lot out of that rear window. And yeah, HSV, I just want one, is what the sticker says. So that's slightly less than ideal in terms of rear view. We've got normal car mirrors, so we can see what's going on really. But I think it's probably about time to start the engine. Oh, what are you complaining about now? Oh, it's probably because I haven't got my seatbelt on, maybe. Oh, hopefully it'll stop at some point. So yes, there we go. 6 litres of V8 power. Wow! Whoa! I just scared myself. And yeah, look, instant fuel, that's litres per hour. So yeah, she's going to drink plenty. We've got oil pressure here. I presume that's oil temperature there. So that's going to take a while to come up. So we're going to have to, I really have literally just picked the car up. So I'm going to have to go gently for a bit while we warm everything up. And then we can go up this end of the rev range perhaps, which promises to be exciting. I'm pleased to say traction control is fitted. And on a wet day, there is no chance of me turning that off. Far too much respect for this particular HubNut's rear tyres. Interestingly, the VU Ute base model I've turned up in today has a 3.8 litre V6 engine, producing nowhere near this amount of power and torque, and has no traction control, so that is quite a handful in the wet. So hopefully this will be all right. But I'll get you set up, and we'll go for a drive. All right then, folks. Gosh, this seat certainly feels very, very sporty. Of course, being a Ute, I've got a window right behind my head. Oh, sorry, that's right on the microphone. Professional as ever. So let's go over there. What have we got? Super shift. Active select on. But we won't bother with that. We'll go with normal shift for now. We shall check the way it's clear. I'm going to put lights on just in case people can't see this ludicrous purple car. And we'll go driving down here and see where we end up. Oh, this really does feel like I've unlocked Australia. I'm driving around in a big old ute, which is good. We've got a bin lorry here. I'm just going to come up behind this bin lorry because you'll notice it's got a robot arm that comes out, smashes through the trees and picks up the bins. So that's quite good. Oh, he's dropped it. He's dropped it. Fail, mate. Jeepers, you can't leave that there. He dropped the wheelie bin. You great galah. That's what I say. I've not heard anyone say that here. Only Alf in Home and Away. I don't know where I'm going, so we'll go this way. Yeah, it's I think you could certainly describe it as peppy, but also smooth. Perhaps a bit too smooth, to be honest. The ride is fairly firm, as you'd probably expect. And the headliner is slightly sagging and rubbing on my head. But yeah, I admire the Australians for building cars like this. It's a shame they don't anymore. But yeah, I just love the fact that you do get vehicles like this, and they are working vehicles. I dread to think what the fuel economy is like in this car, especially when you enjoy yourself. We are currently doing 5.7 litres per 100 kilometres, and my foot isn't on the throttle. There's another ute. Right, we shall jump on the M8 to go to Wendouree. I've no idea why, it just seems a better idea than heading towards Melbourne. And we got there fairly briskly on part throttle. So yeah, performance we certainly have. Feel how refined it is. My VU Ute is similar. It's these are definitely vehicles built for covering distance. They just eat up the miles. Oh dear, slight vibration from the passenger wiper. So we're near the town of Ballarat, which I think was initially a gold rush town. And what I hope's on, I have more time to explore, but sadly life doesn't seem to be working that way. But I shall get this thing warmed up. I can see the oil temperature is starting to come up now, and we'll find some more entertaining roads. Oh wow, how Australian is that? I am in a ute travelling to Castlemaine. Oh, she's lively. Oh, there is my traction control. Oh, ESP off. No, I don't think that's a good idea. Stability control on. Let's go for sport shift. So it's the right way around for touring car. So it's backwards for up and forwards for down, which is a more natural way of doing things. That's quite interesting, because a lot of these Tiptronic style gearboxes tend to be forward for up. So I'll have to see how I cope with that. Check the coast is clear, and here we go then. Oh, that got naughty. That wasn't reading my points there. Oh, 5, there we go, we're into 5th gear. 6, there we go, it's a 6-speed gearbox, I can confirm. Which will probably be why it's still doing 2,000 revs at an alleged 120 kilometers an hour on the clock. I think we can say it's brisk. Go back to normal shift. I quite like the having some sort of manual override. Good gearboxes don't really require that you use it, but even the best automatics, there are just those times where you just need to hold a gear. I find, especially if you're driving uphill through a tight and twisty section, as soon as you come off the throttle, the car goes back up the gearbox, and you don't want it to. You want it to hold, say, 3rd gear. Oh, I've got a Honda Integra behind me, the 3-door type we didn't get in Europe. Excitement for me anyway. But yeah, it's absolutely terrible weather. I will say the traction control seems quite nice. It's not overly obtrusive. If we go back to my Ford Fairmont AU that I was driving around New Zealand, that had a very obtrusive traction control, whereas if it kicked in, it kind of kicked power for cut power rather for, you know, as much as a second. This feels a bit more active and responsive. But the reality of Australia is roads are like this. They just go on and not much happens. But I'm going to go down this road and see what we can find down it. Oh, that is silly amounts of power. It's not necessarily just the power, it's the torque. It's almost electric motor like, but of course, naturally, it's very difficult to enjoy such amounts of power on a public road without getting into quite a lot of trouble. But that doesn't mean it's not fun to try. Get the traction down. There we go. Right, it's not a very long section of road, but I think we've got more than enough time to do an actual 0 to 100. So if you're ready, I will begin. Jeepers! That was struggling to get the power down. Did you feel it come in? I don't know if it was 2nd or 3rd gear it got to. And it was just like, right, we've got traction. Now I can really open up the taps. That was astonishing. Whoa. Oh my. What a silly car. What a silly, silly car. But what I like is I've driven a VY Commodore which had the 5.7 litre LS1 engine, so a bit less power. But what's making this better is the gearbox, because that Commodore was doing 70 kilometers an hour in 1st gear. So it didn't actually feel that quick. It felt like it was only just getting into its power band at about the sort of time you're running out of speed limit. Whereas this actually feels quite enjoyable below 100 kilometers an hour. That's what makes it feel different. You hear a bit of wind noise from the aerial at the back, but otherwise it's very peaceful in here until you open up the taps on the engine, at which point it gets a little bit noisy. So for overtaking punch, if I slow down to say 60, I think, oh, I want to get around this person. Whoa, that got squirrely. Even with the traction control on, that got a bit twitchy. Blimey. I'm going to leave Australia with a terrifying thirst for power. This is not how it's meant to be. I'm even wearing my 2CV Power Less is More t-shirt, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I now need one in my life. Australia, you are a bad place. There's a big American truck. Cummins Power. That's quite hilarious. I don't want to take this car back. Can I just keep it? Is that fine? I'll just leave, you know, the base ute that I drove here in. That's okay. I can take this home. Yeah. Whoa. Oh, I like it. But you know, you still get all the mod cons. So I've still got cruise control, which unfortunately has got the same stalks as the VY, which requires you to take your foot off, your hand off rather, to operate the cruise control. I don't like that. I'm just going to let that car get a nice way ahead, because we're coming up to 110 kilometers an hour. It's the fastest I'm going to be able to drive today. It's a shame it's on a curved road really, but here we go. Yeah, I'm not brave enough to keep my foot in on that much bend. Holy cow. But as fast as I am, apparently I'm not fast enough to keep up with White Van Man. There's a copper orange dome it is there. Ooh. But of course these are perfect Jekyll and Hyde cars, because it's just effortless, just pottering around. You wouldn't know it has that sort of performance when you're just burbling around town like this. Not that it does burble too much. That is something I think could be stronger. They could have unleashed a bit more burble. There's one test I haven't done yet. I've tested acceleration and had lots of fun, but I haven't tested deceleration. We've seen how big those brakes were, and I'm aware that some of these HSVs were quite proud of how good the stoppers are. So no one behind me. Oh, they are rather good. What's that was just flown from under my seat? Tuna. That's unexpected. Why, Brad, have you got tuna under your seat? Still within sell-by date, so he might want to eat those after all. I wonder how hot that's got. Ooh. Dear. I've become a hooligan. Oh man alive, that is one hilarious motor vehicle. It doesn't matter whether it's a ute or a coupe or whatever really. It's an awful lot of fun and very, very Australian. And as I near the end of my time here in Australia, I'm very glad to have ticked this particular box. That is a ridiculous and very enjoyable motor vehicle. I'm wearing entirely the wrong top. But if you would still like to purchase said top, then you can head to hubnut.org and find all manner of goodies and various support options. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. I'm off for a lie down and a strong cup of tea. Farewell.